Hello. I'm not done. I was not finished. Okay. This is Patricia M. Goins, and I'm just going back over what I was already talking about because I feel like this is an important word for the music minister and Bible study. So, the last I started off on Instagram. And if you know my Instagram is Patricia Marie Goins. That's my Instagram, right? Goins. Patricia Marie Goins. So I started off on Instagram with this and the reception was so horrible, that I was like, I really want to get this word out because I feel like it's very important. So you can go to my Instagram and you can see the natural part of it, when God was first downloading the information to me. But I just wanted to make it clear so that you understand what God is saying. But I've already prayed over this live. I've already prayed over it. I prayed over it starting in outside when I began it, so I'm still covered. So today, God had me go over Second Chronicles chapter 27, and I never know what God is going to say or what it's going to be about until I start reading. So after I started praying, it's like God led me to the promise, right? And the promise that He gave us for those of you who've been following me. In the fourth quarter of 2024, we read 2 Kings chapter 19, verse 29, when we were learning about Hezekiah. Hezekiah was a king of Judea, one coming from David's line. And, he followed God or whatever, but he had got a prophecy that he was that he was going to lose his life, that he was going to die. And he just basically prayed and he asked God, please, I've been following you, I've been faithful, And so God changed his mind, and gave him more time. So in Second Kings, chapter 19, verse 29, he gives a promise. Now, mind you, this promise that he's given, he's saying it to Hezekiah, but remember the Bible is real time, so he's speaking this to us too, because he already talked about this last year. I have it written 2024, 2025, 2026, that's for me. But for whatever this reaches you, that's when your clock starts, right? Unless God has given you some other information already. So this is what he said. This is what he said to me in 2029. This is what he said to those who are following me. Then this shall be the sign of these things to you, Hezekiah. And it's like parentheses, Hezekiah, as if to put your name in there, right? If your name is Samantha, my name's Patricia, your name's John, whatever. Substitute your name for that name, for Hezekiah's name. But anyway, of these things to you, Hezekiah, this year you will eat what grows of itself. We're talking about 2024 right now, or, for those of us who've been following since 2024, right? Or if this is new for you, 2025. But our year began in 2024. So, and we haven't reached the year point yet because I want to say we ended this like in December of 2024. So anyway, it says, this year you will eat what grows of itself. In the second year, what springs up voluntarily. And in the third year, sow and reap, plant vineyards and eat their fruit. That's the prosperity. That's the 3-year promise, right? So I'm already feeling like September is that kind of month. Like there's something about September, and whatever it is about September that holds weight is going to hold even more weight in October, and it's going to grow in importance in November, and by December you will be holding some kind of fruit in your hand if you don't before then. Like there's something powerful. It's like the MVP players on the field. It's like, we headed to the Super Bowl. We already had halftime on the 4th of July, and so now we're going into, those special plans that God put together, those strategic plans. God is strategic. I don't care what happened in the other months, he's strategic, right? So that's the promise. So then we start, I went on to read the next chapter because I'm going in order, right? So the next chapter we're talking about Jotham, right? And it's a very short chapter, which tells me that God is going straight to the point. He's giving us a specific word, right? Because it's very short. So I'm going to read it. It says, Jotham succeeds Uzziah in Judea. It says, Jotham was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Jerisha. I can pronounce these names. Listen, don't come for me, okay? The daughter of Zodak. I guess it's Zodok. He did right in the sight of the Lord, in accordance with everything that his father Uzziah had done. However, he did not enter the temple of the Lord, but the people continued behaving corruptly. Because that's what Uzziah did. Let's go back here. When we read 26, King Uzziah, spelled Uzziah, he started off doing everything right, but then he got the big head. He allowed the fame and the fortune and all that stuff and all the responsibility and everything to get to his head, and his pride made him step out of order and no longer do what God told him to do. And because of that, he ended up getting leprosy, right? So his son was like, yeah, I'm not going to do, because he went into the temple. He wasn't supposed to go in the temple, and he knew it. And the people told him, like, why are you in here doing all this? You ain't supposed to be doing all this in here. And he was just, well, I can do what I want to do. And so he ended up getting leprosy, yo. So, yeah. And so his son, Jotham, still followed God, but he knew not to go in that temple. He did not do what his father did, right? He understood the game. So it says here, the people were still acting corruptly, but he did not. He continued to keep God first and do what God told him to do. So here we are, 2 Chronicles chapter 27, verse 3. He built the upper gate of the house of the Lord and did extensive building on the wall of Ophel. So 2024, right, was about building. It was about building. It's about laying down a foundation. And it might not have been easy, but you were laying down foundation, just like, Jotham was laying down foundation, and he did extensive building on the wall of Ophel. Moreover, he built cities in the hill country of Judea, and in the forest, he built fortresses and towers. He was doing a lot of work, y'all, right? He also fought with the king of the Ammonites and prevailed over them. As a result, the Ammonites gave him during the year 100 talents. That was in that first year, right? 100 talents of silver and 10,000 measures of wheat and barley. The Ammonites also paid him that much in the second and the third year. So Jonathan grew powerful because he directed his ways before the Lord his God. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham, I said Jonathan, I mean Jotham, I'm sorry. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham and all his wars and his ways, behold, they are written in the book of Kings of Israel and Judea. He was 25 years old when he became king, right? And he reigned for 16 years in Jerusalem. And Jotham slept with his fathers in death, and they buried him in the city of David. Asa, his son, became king in his place. Okay. With that, when it goes in and it's talking about what he was getting in that first year, the Ammonite, he did a lot of work, right? He was working. He did a lot of work, building the upper gate and building the temple. Now he was building, right? A lot of us have been building. A lot of us have been like David on the backside of the mountain, right? We've been out there tending to the sheep, right? David may not have had a lot of sheep that he's in charge of, but his job was to take care of the sheep that he did have and to play the harp because he's the musician. And so he may have seemed insignificant, but God has a lot of us on the backside of the mountain. You ain't heard of a lot of us. The ones that's coming from the back to the front, we ain't have a lot of followers. We ain't have a big following, but we've been being obedient. Like David was obedient in the field, taking care of the sheep. He didn't seem like he was important, but he ended up being very important because it was necessary. They needed him to defeat the giant. And then not only that, but they needed him to guide the country, to guide the kingdom. He went from the back to the front. He went from the bottom to the top. He went from being the shepherd boy to the king. That's how a lot of y'all are about to be transitioning into different levels, different areas. God is taking you from the back to the front. He's taking you from being unseen to being seen. He's restored the years the locusts have eaten. This is that kind of year, right? This is that first year. So get ready for the prosperity that's coming in this fourth quarter of 2025 for those of you who are in your first year. But if this is the beginning of the promise for you, then you still got some building to do, but then yours is going to start in 2026. But for us who have been already hearing this word, we started hearing this word in 2024, we're in that first year. So get ready for the harvest that's coming towards before the end of 2025. I don't care what has happened in 2024 because that wasn't nothing but the enemy trying to break you down, trying to break your focus, trying to make you think that you didn't hear God correctly, trying to get you off course, trying to make you lose your spot. See, Jotham did what he was supposed to do. He learned from the mistakes of his father. He's like, I ain't going to do that. I'm going to do what God says to do, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. And even when I start getting this fame and fortune, all this money and stuff, I'm not about to change. So in that first year, he had the Ammonites giving him, what they say, gave 100 talents of silver and 10,000 measures of wheat and barley. And then they did it again in the second year, and they did it again in the third year. So he was accumulating wealth. God took care of him and gave him above and beyond what he could ask for. We're in our first year. We're coming into the third. This is the end of the third quarter, right? Because the fourth quarter is October, November, December. So we're coming to the end of the third quarter, and we're about to enter the fourth quarter. There's something important about September. Something important about September. And God is holding the promises that he gave to you. I don't care how bad it looked. I don't care what it looked like. I don't care. The enemy has been fighting me all year long. Listen, the enemy has been fighting me most of my life. I came into this life fighting. I came in dealing with child abuse, molestation, and all the kind of stuff, everything that you could think of, I came through it. But that's because the enemy was trying to take me out. Because he knew I would get to this point right here to tell you to trust God. I don't care what it looked like. Hold on to them promises because he's bringing downloads. He's giving you a master plan. He is strategic. He's playing chess with the enemy. He is the MVP, the all-star player. And please believe you're going to take this 2025. It's going to end better than what you expect. And it's going to set the financial prosperity type foundation for 2026 and 2026 and 2027 if this is messages for you. But if you don't believe it, then listen. Who am I? I'm just telling you what I'm reading. And I've noticed that the Bible is real time. So he's speaking to us. And he said, I'm going to honor the promise. But the thing is don't lose your faith. Stand on your faith. If God gave you a promise, I don't care what it looked like, stand on it. Because he is not a man that he should lie. So if he promised you something, it's going to happen. You got to have patience. And you got to keep your faith. God, I pray that I've said what you wanted me to say. I pray, God, that you send all those either now or later who are supposed to hear it. And that not only that they will hear it, but they will receive it, discern it, and then you will show the proof of it. So they will know that this is not about Patricia M. Goins, but it's you speaking through me and using me as your vessel, as one of your vessels, because you've never sent a word through just one source. It's always through other sources that are not connected, because God don't ever want you to think it's about the person. It's not about me. It's just about the message. And the message ain't just for you, it's for me too. I know what God is saying. Sometimes it's hard though. So if you've had to cry some tears because, it's been hard, I understand. But you better keep on moving and you better hold on to the promise. Trust God. So go read 2 Chronicles chapter 27. Or go read 2 Kings chapter 19, verse 29. So you can see for yourself. He's making I never know how God is going to lead me until I start reading. So when I'm out there reading, I don't know how this is going to flow. I know now because I'm redoing it for those who weren't able to catch it on my Instagram, or because, the enemy was fighting me through the airways. But God said, trust him. You don't even have any idea what he's about to do for you. What is in your mind, whatever God's about to do is times 50 of that. It hasn't even entered your concept. Pay attention to whoever you meet in this month of September. Pay attention to whatever downloads God gives you in this month of September. And don't let go of the things that you've been working on the backside of the mountain, because God's about to take you from the back to the front, from the bottom to the top. Just don't forget him when you get there. Remember that. That's the biggest thing I've been reading about in 2 Chronicles. Is God saying, these are the promises, but listen, when I give you what I promised you, I'm going to give you, don't forget about me, right? So anyway, I praise your name, Father. Thank you for using me. I praise your name. Amen. Peace and love, y'all.